Good evening, and thank you for watching Once and Often. I'm Jasmine. Joining me today is Kevin. On Instagram, he is Living My Shadows, and y'all should know by now on this platform, we are talking to everyone fostered and everyone adopted. Hi, Kevin. How are you?
Hey, how you doing, Jasmine? How you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so
No
much for
problem.
being open to share your story. Kevin, I want to go right into it, and I want you to
Right
take us
into it.
I want you to take us to the moment were you just in foster care or were you adopted?
I was in foster care first, then I was adopted.
Okay. And at what age did this take place?
Sooner at birth. At birth, my mother gave me up to the system. Let me go back. I was born in Jersey City, New Jersey. My mother gave me up right at birth. I was in a couple of homes before I got adopted. Um, One of the main things with me in the beginning of my life was that first foster care people that I was with. They left me out to die on the porch. They had, I don't know, maybe about a month or so. I was told, and they put me on the porch, and someone, social worker, found me with a bottle of milk that was actually spoiled. So I almost died of malnutrition. They had to feed me through my ankles for me to get some food in my system.
Wait,
Um, Yeah, that's I just come right at it. That's the beginning of my life on this earth.
wait a
Um,
minute. Hold up. So this was not, oh, hold up. So this was not even done. So your biological mother placed you for adoption at birth, and
at birth.
this was done. The fostered family did this, left you
First,
out?
yeah, the first foster family. Yep.
Who are we trusting these children and babies to? Are you kidding me?
Yeah,
So
this was back in the 60s.
back in the 60s?
Yeah, 19. I was born 1960. Yeah,
Wait a m So you certainly don't look like you were born in 19. Let me just go ahead
yeah.
and say
Everybody tells me that.
that. So you were the first family left you out and you were malnourished and
Right.
you were fed through your ankles?
Yes, the foster care parents, not. Cause my mother just gave me up. They,
Right.
yeah, yep, yep. They, I guess, they, you know, I was crying too much. I have no idea, but that's where I was found at. About with one, I was about 2 months, and they found me on the steps, and they got me back into some type of in shape and stuff, and then I was given to another foster care family, which they was much older, the Crawfords, and from basically 1960 to 71. Um, I was with them, and that whole experience was very unreal. I was abused. Anything you can name, I was abused. All three of my foster parents, I got abused, either physical, mentally, verbally, sexually, or whatever. But the Crawfords, they was really abusive. I got beat. It was me and another guy, but he didn't go through what I went through. Yeah, I know you heard of the word colorism, right? He was very light skinned, very fair skinned. I was dark skinned, so they used that against me. They used to play all kind of psychological games with me. Like Christmas time, they just have one chair and they put like 4 or 5 gifts on there, and and his chair would be like not a chair, a sofa would be nothing but gifts, and I go run to the sofa, and they said, "No, no, you black NIGER, you go to this one." And that's where your gift at, because you're bad, you're ugly, and all this other stuff. So I had to go through a whole lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff I went through with that particular foster care family.
Okay, so what you just dropped on me and those of us who are watching, I wasn't expecting that. This is the second time today I'm speaking with another adoptee, and the stuff y'all are dropping is just too heavy. So give me a second. So let me go back a second. What were the circumstances behind why you were placed in foster care?
Well, I was placed in foster care because my I guess my mother didn't want me. So I to this day, um, I don't know why exactly she put me in foster. I can guess because later on down the line, at the age of 56, I found my biological family. We get into that later, but during that time, I had no idea. All I was told was that I was given up. at birth, and then when the Crawfords got me, um, the foster mother used to tell me that I was not wanted because I was too dark skinned, I was ugly, I was a demon, all these different things, and that was a way of keeping me down and trying to keep me in my place, so to speak. So I never got to, even to this day, never got the true reason why I was giving up. I have an idea because back in the '60s, if you had kids out of wedlock, that that happens a lot, especially when you have two and three kids, which she did. And so, I only can imagine that's why she gave me up. And then maybe, as the years go by and the secret is under the rug, you just kind of like don't want to tell nobody, don't want to mess with, what she had going on, So
Right.
it's all kind of reasons. And I try to figure it out, but sometimes it's not even worth going down the road. But being a adoptee, you always wonder what if, you
Of
know,
course.
what if I would have grew up with my biological family? What if I would have did this? Maybe this stuff wouldn't happen to me. Like you said, who do I look like and all this stuff.
Yeah.
My all my foster care parents did not look nothing like me.
Yeah.
Any of my foster care siblings didn't look nothing like me. And so kids can be very mean when you go to school.
Yeah.
How come you don't
Absolutely.
look like your mom? Or how come you don't look like your dad? Why your last name? Because, when I got adopted in 1976, I was 16 years old. So, but I went to grammar school. I did all this other stuff with a different surname. Then all of a sudden, I'm in high school and then my name has changed. And so now I got to ask these questions. Why you change your name? And then that's when, kind of like let the cat out of the bag a little bit and tell people that I was adopted. For a lot of people never knew that I was adopted all the way up. Even to this day, they like, you was adopted, so
Yeah. That
yeah.
is, it's very uncommon to be adopted that late in life because typically at age 18 and 21, you
Hmm.
typically age out and being adopted is no longer a thing. But I think what's tugging at me is the fact that one, not knowing the story of behind why you were placed for adoption, if it was drug use, if it was the fact that you were born out of wedlock or anything like that. And then the system decides, oh, well, he still needs a safe place to live. So we're going to put him with a family that's going to take great care of him. And you landed your feet in three families that could do nothing but abuse you.
Yeah.
How did you get through all of those situations? Because as you sit here now as an adult, I can't even imagine.
It was rough. I guess one of the gifts that I got from the man upstairs is a gift of a strong mind. So what I did is even at the age of 4 and 5, 6 and 7, because my one of the stories, one of the big stories is how my foster father used to take a extension cord and put it around my neck and put the other end on his hand, on around his wrist, and he would fall asleep, would be between his legs. And so that's the only way I was able to look at TV. And if I moved or anything like that, he would, jug the thing. So I used to watch Muhammad Ali, during the civil rights era where people was getting watered down with hoses and things like that. And Muhammad Ali, I used to saw Muhammad Ali just talk back to these people, right? I'm like, whoa, Muhammad Ali, he just kicking against the pricks. He's like, wow, he don't care how people view him or what. He's going to speak his mind. So I started getting my little confidence. I'm going to be like Muhammad Ali when I grow up. So he became one of my heroes, him and Bruce Lee. And so when I used to go to bed at night, I used to knock on the wall and ask the Dream Master to come and take me away out of all this. So I used to dream about being successful and being, in a position where I can laugh at all this and try to prove everybody wrong. So that kept me going. So it was rough, but I always look forward to going to bed because that was my time of peace.
Yeah.
And the only time I was able to get any peace was when I was asleep. So
I,
that's
I,
how I
I
was able to
can't
do it.
I can't understand because even domesticated animals don't get extension cords wrapped around their necks.
It was rough. That and the beatings, and the verbal abuse. It was rough. It was rough. And the thing about it is, when I became of age, like older, like in my 20s, I actually found out where she would, Mister the foster father passed away, and she was still alive. But I actually went to go see her because I wanted to find out who my mother was. And
Mm.
at this time, she was, blind in one eye, couldn't see out the other, and when I came up to the nursing home where she was at, she actually knew who I was. She kind of felt my hand and she said, "Hey, Kevin, Gavin," and she's trying to apologize, and all the things. And the only thing, that's one of the few times I have a cold heart a couple of times, but that was one of the few times I had a cold heart, and I said, "Listen, I really don't care what happens to you, because you did me wrong, but you made me stronger, and I just want to know who my mom's is." And she gave me a name, which later on I found out it wasn't it. And I said, I told her, God bless, rest her soul. And I left, and I never visited her after that. So yeah, so it was rough, but that was just you know um, the foster care part was really rough. Then getting adopted at later age, and then had to explain. And of course, when you get in your teenage years, and then your own adult years, you start experiment with certain things like just life in itself. And I
Mm.
wound up joining the military for me. But when you join the military, they ask you all these questions: where were you born at? What, you're allergic to anything? You got anything? The cancer? All these questions I could not answer.
Yep.
Where you
Yep.
come from? All these things I couldn't answer. But the good thing about the military was it gave me a lot of confidence. Got leadership role. I came out of my shell. I was able to be a little bit more open in front of people and things like that. And but I still had problems with relations. I was married 3 times. Because you just problems with trusting people and things like that.
Yeah.
And I finally found a young lady that she did her thing, and she basically said, "Hey, listen, you need to find your parents." And then my son, I guess my granddaughter, her grandmother on her mother's side was adopted. So she had it both ways. So my son said, "Listen, we got to find out where we come from." And so that's when I always kind of like every now and then kind of ask questions and call the state of New Jersey and ask for information, but they wouldn't give me anything. They just gave me stuff like, we can give you stuff of like non-identifying information, but we can't give you names and things like that. So I had bits and parts of information, but finally I just went out and just started, actually researching, hired an investigator, started taking DNA tests. DNA started becoming a little bit more popular. Facebook helped me out a little bit, and with a little luck, I wound up finding my mother at the age of 56 years old.
Oh my God. I was gonna ask if you found her. So you did.
Yes, yes, I did. It was it was a whirlwind. Of course, uh, I was scared when
Of
when
course.
I finally, found the information. Let me step back a little bit. What happened was I took a DNA test, and I don't know if you ever did Ancestry or anything
I
like
did.
that, but when you do it, and all of a sudden you see, I had like, you know, I don't know, maybe 700 relatives, and I'm looking up, staring at it, and I'm like, this is the very first time that I see somebody that has the same blood type or bloodline. And so the first 4 people that I contacted was all women. They was fourth cousins, and they taught me so much about DNA and second cousins, third cousins, and show me how to research. And so I'm looking at all this stuff, a region where was from, and all these little different things. It was very new to me, and of course I'm sending this information to my kids and stuff like that, and they're really dad, So finally I said, I gotta, it's kind of hard to triangulate fourth cousins.
Right.
It's a lot of people, right?
Mhm.
So one day, a first cousin came up there, and I'm like, whoa. And so I just put that on the back burner, and I took all the information that I had, and I found this group. One of the cousins, one of the young ladies told me, "Say, hey, listen, you need to go on Facebook DNA detectives, and you need to just give all the information that you have." And so that's what I did. And in 3 hours, the lady came back and said, "I think I found your mom." And so I said, "Really?" And so I just dropped my mouse, and I'm looking. I'm like, get out of here. And so she started typing. As she started typing, she said, "Hey, listen, I think this is your mom. Your mom father is this person, and he came all the way from Anguilla, St. Kitts, and it showed the whole line. And then he had two kids and two daughters, and we think this is your mom because she's the only one that had kids. And so, and she had a kid after me, which was kind of crazy because I knew through the information the state gave me that I had two brothers that was older than me. I didn't know I had another sibling, which was a sister, who was born after me. So she gave me up, but wound up still having another kid after me, which kind of messed with my head.
Of
But she
course.
had her doing a marriage. So I guess maybe that might have been a little different.
So, all right. Oh my God, you just
That's
said
a
a
lot.
lot. You just said a lot. When you spoke, my guess is that you met your biological mother physically and you've been in her presence by this point. I mean,
No,
as we speak.
not in the beginning. In the beginning, what I did is I called. They had some phone numbers for me, and so I called my brother's wife's phone, and no, let me take that back. I called my mother's phone first, and at that time I didn't know I had a sister. She answered the phone. I said, "Listen, hello, my name is Kevin. Blah blah blah." And I think that I'm your son. And I thought that was the young lady. The young person that answered the phone, I thought that was my mother, but actually it wasn't. It was my sister. And she said, I don't think I think you got the wrong phone number, and I really don't have time to be playing games. And she hung up. So I'm like, oh man, I kind of approached that kind of wrong because people just call.
Right.
So I got another phone number, which was my sister in law's, and so I called that number, and she was she's from the Dominican. I think it's from the Dominican, and she had this thick accent. And so I said, listen, I'm trying to find uh, Johnny Hodge or whatever. She said, hold on for a second. And she got him on the phone. And he said, "Oh, can I help you?" And I said, "Listen, just give me 10 minutes, please. 10 minutes."
Right.
So by this time, I basically explained to him everything that I found about his grandfather, our grandfather.
Hmm.
And at that time, I was on a business trip in Colorado, and I said, "Listen, I'll get back to you. I just want you to have the information, and then talk to your mother and see what she says." And so I said, "I'll get back with you in a week." And instead, I hung the phone up. I couldn't wait a week. It was like 2 days. So I call him back up and I say, "Hello, uh, you know who this is?" And he said, "Yeah, this is Kevin, my brother," like that. So tears started coming on my eyes. And I said, "So she acknowledged it." She said, "Yeah, me and your sister, backed in the corner." And she said, "Yeah, basically." And so, I when I got home, I FaceTimed her, my sister and her. That's the first time I laid eyes on my mom. And she was tearied up. And I said, "Listen, we're going to get together, so we're going to set something up." So I set something up to meet them in like 3 weeks, and we wound up at a restaurant, soul food restaurant. And next thing you know, I'm sitting there waiting, and I just see him walk coming in, and my mom was only 4'6",
Oh, little bitty thing.
little bitty thing, right? And she came in. She was like the second one that came in. My cousin came in, which she was dying of cancer. I didn't know at the time, but she wanted to make it. And so my mother came in, and so I'm looking. I grabbed her, hold her hand. She looked eye to eye, and she started crying. I said, "Hey, we're not going to do this. It's supposed to be a happy occasion. No tears." And she looked at me and she said, "Just something else," because she would have took it to the grave. She would have took it to the grave. And
So
then I
what?
met.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, and then the rest of the crew came in. A cousin was walking down the street and seen the family walking in. He just came in. My brother came in. My sister came in. One of my brothers I never met because he passed away before I ever got a chance to meet him. But we sat there for a couple of hours. Then we went to my brother's house. We sat another couple of hours, and they just kept on staring at me the whole time.
Of course. What questions did you ask and what answers did you get? Because you had to have some sort of questions. I mean, especially knowing that there were two older brothers and then a younger sister. It sounds like you were the only one who were giving up.
Yeah, I didn't ask that particular day. I didn't ask no questions. I brought me a book of my army career as a talking point because I didn't know if I had any words, so I needed something for them to look at. So I bought a couple of books so they could look and ask questions about the military and things like that. I didn't jump deeply into that, into reference why I was giving up, who my father was, and all that stuff, right? And so after all that was over, and I came back home, and a couple of days later, I called my sister and said, "Listen, I gotta ask who my father is. Like, I'm come up there again, but I'm just gonna be with mom by ourselves." So I went up there, and when I came up there, she gave me a hug and everything. We sat down, and she started tearing up a little bit, and she grabbed my hand. She started going down memory lane, grabbing my hands and all this, and my face and stuff. So in my head, I'm like, I want to know who my father is. Now, before that trip, within 2 days, first cousin came up on 23andMe, and I called that first cousin. It was on my father's side, and he said, I really don't do this stuff, but my sister does a lot. And so I got in touch with the sister, and the sister explained who my father might be, because another DNA results came up, and it was a half sister on my
Wow.
father's side, right? And he said, so your father has to be George, but these are your uncles. So I had like five uncles, So I took two uncles and my father named George. So I already knew who my father was based on my sister, but I wanted to hear from mom's. And
Mhm.
so when I went down to visit her, I said, "Hey, listen, I'm gonna ask you this one time. I have three people, and I need to know who my father is." And she said George, right? And I said, "I'll never ask you any why or whatever." And so that was it. I never asked her because at this time my mother was 88 years old when I met her. So I
When
was
you
very
met her,
fortunate. Yeah, she was 88 years old.
how old was she when she had you?
She had me when she was 31.
When she was 31. And so
Yeah.
you never got the story behind why you were the only one giving up?
No, only thing I could figure out, the only reason, my first brother, he was born 1947. He was born a year after my grandfather passed away. So I think my mom she was really close to her father, and I think she just kind of went off, and she got pregnant. She had my older brother in 1947, and then she had my second brother, had him in 1958 or 57, and then had me in 1960, and then had my sister. Well, my sister, my mother got married, and then she had my sister in 1963. So I'm only assuming that because she had two people already out of wedlock, and my grandmother was taking care of them too. And then the third one, I don't even think my grandmother even knew that I was born. Because she
Wow.
she had me in a maternity home in Jersey City. So basically, she left home about 3 months and disappeared for 6 months, and then had me. They would put me in the system and came back. Now my older brother, he was about 14 years old. He remembers mom disappearing for 4 or 5 months. So he remembers that. So he kind of like, I knew something was going on. And he just, when we met for the first time, he just started crying because I knew something was going on. And so he uh, he shared that with me. But that's what she did. So my grandmother probably didn't know that I existed. So
So let's go back a second. At what point did you realize you were a foster child? Because, and my reason for asking is because prior to your adoption, you were fostered until you were 16 years old.
mhm.
And but going from home to home, experiencing so much trauma, being physically, emotionally, and psychologically abused, it had to have some effect on you. So, at what point did you realize I'm just a foster child? This isn't my real family. And how did that make you feel as an adolescent?
I knew all my life I was a foster kid. Because I never looked like nobody. So I knew all the whole time that I was a foster kid, and oh man, what's going on here? Yeah, I knew I was a foster kid. They didn't they when I got to my third and final foster home, they didn't really discuss me being adopted at all. It was like taboo. You're one of us. You're us. You're us. You're like Moses.
Yep.
You found in the river now. And so they didn't talk about it. So I always knew that I was a foster kid. Plus my last name. My last name didn't change until I was 16. So I know I was born at one name, and then all of a sudden my name is changed to another name. So I already knew. So that wasn't really a surprise. And then when I got adopted, you know, when you're 16, 15 or whatever, you really don't really understand the significance of that and how that's going to change your life,
Mhm.
because I already had identity issues, and
Yeah.
now I changed my name. Okay, it really didn't affect me until I got into the military later on in life, and then I realized, man, I would like to have my surname back,
Mhm.
but I had a kid already, two kids, and then I had a third one and the fourth one. Then I wound up changing my name at one time. I just kept the surname that they gave me and put it, out of respect to them, and put it as my middle name. But now I carry all the names, and I still don't carry my father's last name, which I've been thinking sometimes to put that in and have one long middle names.
Right.
But yeah, it's just hard. So that I have a hat that carries all three surnames, and people ask me why. Because if you knew me between 1960 to 1972, you knew me as Kevin Hodge.
Mhm.
If you knew me from 1976 all the way up until about you know I don't know 97, around 97, 98, you knew me as Ishmael Ali. And
Mhm.
then if you knew me after that, you knew all three of them. So sometimes people call me by my last name when I was back in 75, and people look at me like, what did they call you? So it's kind of
Mhm.
weird. And then finding out
Were you
my father's
comfortable
last
being
name, which is
adopted
a
at 16 years
whole
old?
different
Like, was
name.
that a talk that was had
Yeah,
in the home
it's
saying, "Hey, Kevin, at this point, we want to go ahead and adopt you"? Did they talk to you about that? And were you okay with moving forward with the
yeah.
adoption? Yeah.
Yeah, because I figured like I didn't know nothing about my mom or whatever, and this time I was angry because she abandoned me. So I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I'm calling myself getting mad at her. I'm gonna change my name. This is my family. But when you're 16, you don't know how that's gonna affect you. When you're 25, 23, you're like, oh man, where did I come from? Oh man, am I gonna have high blood pressure?
Right.
Am I gonna have cancer? Why I don't look like them? Why I'm this height and they this height? All kinds of
Right.
different things. Yeah.
So you went through most of your life not knowing who mom was, who dad was. And like we always say, those questions just live in our heads. Like, so at this point, you've met mom as we
hmm
speak. I mean, at this point, we've met mom. Have you met dad?
No, dad. Dad died in what's it? 82. So I didn't
Oh.
get I didn't get a chance to. He was 50 when he passed away, so I didn't get a chance to meet him. But the weird story is, my adopted grandmother used to have a church in her house, and she used to go out and grab people off the street and talk to them about Jesus. And she was known to do that. And my father always made sure that she was safe. My foster father, his
Mhm.
mother. And one day, this guy pulled up. He was about 6'4", dark hair, whatever. He pulled up and to get ready to go in the house, and my father just happened to be coming in the house too. So he went downstairs with him to make sure that he was legit. And
Right.
so he left and went back. He went to his house, and the young man sat down. And my grandmother had a piano. She played the piano. She had pictures all around the piano of her grandkids. And so the young man says, "How's Kevin doing?" And she said, "He's doing really good." And she said, "Okay." He said, "Okay. Well, thanks for letting me in your house and let me know how Kevin is really doing." And he got up and left. Now, fast forward, when I found my family and everything, of course, my sister and my cousins, they even gave me pictures of my father and stuff. And so I took one picture and I sent it to my adopted father. And I said, "Was this the man that came in the house?" And he said, "Yes, that was the guy that came in the house." And come to find out, my father, my biological father, used to be a police officer. And I'm saying, I'm trying to put pieces together. I believe my mom probably wound up telling him, and so he had to investigate for himself. But he thought at the time that I was okay, and he didn't want to interrupt anything, and so he just came to check me out. But then he wound up passing about 3 or 4 years after that. But I never got a chance to actually meet him. Now I met his only surviving sibling. His sister. I met her. She turned 100 This is
Mm.
I met her. She's 107 now, but I met her on her 100th birthday. And when I walked and saw her, she called me my father. She said George. I kind of like my dad a little bit. Yeah. So
Oh gosh,
oh,
Kevin.
and the other thing is, out of all my siblings on my mother's side, I look more like my mother than anybody else. Same mold,
Really?
9 yards.
So your father knew about you. Do you think he's always known about you,
I
or
don't
do
think
you
he
think?
knew. I think he knew about me at that particular time whenever my mom might have told him or something. I don't know exactly. I don't. According to everybody else, if my father would have known that I was around, he would have got me. That's the
Yeah,
type of guy he was. And I
that.
met one of the cousins of mine who I just recently met 2 years ago, 3 years ago. We're the same age. My father used to mentor him, and he said the same thing. Man, pops would have known that you was around, he would have came and got you because he mentored him.
Wow.
We talk all the time. Well, sometimes, most of the time.
So let me. So how far were you? You lived in Jersey. How far were your parents? Were they still in Jersey?
They're 45
Obviously,
minutes.
that you said 25 minutes.
45.
Oh, 45 minutes. So close.
Yeah, there was Asbury Park, New Jersey. I don't know if you know where that's at. And I was in Newark, New Jersey, East Orange, New Jersey.
Oh my God. Uh,
Yeah.
Kevin, this is this is um this is some heavy stuff because for you to be in such close proximity to your biological family and live most of your life without being able to attend the cookout, go to a birthday party, have a
Yeah.
birthday party.
Yeah.
And the thing why I say that the system is so unjust is because, like I said, for you to be in such close proximity and not be able to have a relationship with your biological family is just, I don't understand how something like that can even be legal. So when you found out that they were that close,
Hmm.
I know you said you were angry, and that's one of the questions that I would usually like to ask. Like so you directed your anger at 16 years old toward your mom,
All that
right?
left. All that left. I was there when my mom passed away on a deathbed. She asked me to forgive her twice. I already had told her I forgave her, and even one of the orderlies that was taking care of, he told the orderly, "Hey, listen, I did the best I can, and I hope he forgave me." So I didn't really had ill feelings towards her. I mean, it's because I probably wouldn't have turned out. I don't know if I would have turned out to what I turned out now. Let them know all that. But I experienced a lot of things. So maybe she just gave me up because she just couldn't handle me. I mean, she just couldn't take care of me. So um, I know some people that you know was thrown in garbage cans. So
Right,
or aborted. And I
right.
feel sometimes I felt like that at time. I wish he would have aborted me. But I can't really put. If I really spend the rest of my life trying to figure out why, I would drive myself crazy. So
Right.
always try to get myself, things to do, like write books, a couple books, or do a little speaking engagement to foster kids and adopted kids and stuff like that. That help people to experience some of the stuff I experienced because it's nothing I can do. Um, it's like a race, a marathon race, and you started 3 days late, and you're trying to catch up with family members and all that. I'm the new guy on the block, so I've found at least 2,500 family members on both sides. Started
Wow.
websites and all, Facebook groups, and attended funerals, weddings, and stuff. But still, it's different. Then I got the adopted family. I still have to consider because I know them for all my life. So you just can't put them to the side. I got a siblings. I was there before one of my baby brother. He wasn't even born when I was adopted. So he all he knows is me as his big brother. So I can't neglect that. So it's confusing at times. It's overwhelming. Especially for my wife, she just knew me as me and my adopted family, and all of a sudden I got all these other people. I'm attending all these family reunions because I'm just so eager. I mean, it's
Yeah.
slowed down a little bit, but every now and then I find relatives on DNA come up, or someone see my last name or something like that and say, hey, I knew your father, or I'm a cousin and this and that. So it's an all ongoing thing, but I try to deal with it as much as I can.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're dealing with it because this is quite a story. What makes it easy for you to tell your story? I mean, like,
Therapy. It's
did you say
therapy.
that? Oh, therapy.
Yeah. If I do it, the more I do it, the more I can deal with it.
I'm learning. I'm learning that on my own, and I haven't gone started therapy or gone through therapy or anything like that. But I'm noticing a lot of adoptees have gone through therapy,
Mm,
are still in therapy, and they're finding how therapy is helping them cope with their emotions and their anger
mm,
and
mm,
resentment and all of those things. And so therapy has helped you to be able to help other people. So when you say you see other foster youth and young adoptees, you're able to connect with them.
mm,
Naturally, you're able to connect with them in that way so that they can understand, okay, somebody else dealt with this before me. And listening to your story, some of them may not have it as bad because these families who the state trusted to take care of you
mm.
didn't do what they were supposed to do.
And it still happens.
Right.
And then these the people get money for watching these kids.
Yep.
And so they get the money. I don't know if you heard about the case in Philadelphia. People living in the basement for like 6 or 7 years in cages, and it was being fed like dogs. And they just someone happened to hear someone crying because they were walking by. It's just so many stories of abuse. I had a guy who was deaf, reach out to me, and he was adopted. I didn't even know he was adopted 3 times. Adopted 3 times, because every time he got older, of course, his disability became more of a burden to them, to each adopted family. So they put him back in the system. Call him, put him back in the system. I finally got him to reach out to somebody who was deaf, also, who actually done things as far as you know helping people that was deaf, because he was deaf himself. So yeah, but that was crazy. I can go on and tell all kinds of stories since I've gotten into trying to help people and talking stories about how people had to overcome certain things. It's crazy. Some of the things that people go through, and like you said, foster care, you get 18, 19, you grow out of the system, and there's
Yeah.
not a lot of programs. They're starting to have programs, but a lot of these people, they wind up just being on the streets.
Right. Exactly. That's
Yeah,
I hate these laws. I
yeah,
absolutely hate these laws because they don't have enough in place for children who are not adopted and just fostered. They don't provide them the resources because in a lot of cases, when that check stops,
yeah. That's
uh,
it.
the guardianship stops. You got to go. And
Yeah,
I mean, when they are 18 years old and have been within this home their whole life because the check stops for you, now I have to get out here and figure life out on my own. They're still not able to do that at 18 years old. But you
that's
got
it.
to figure it out, and so it leads to homelessness. It leads to prostitution, drug use, and so many other things because the state does not provide resources for these youth who are
Mhm.
aging out to say, here, we know that your time is up in the system, but we are giving you this so that you can start your life, or we're offering you this program so that you can get a job, a trade, something. I hate these laws. I
Yeah,
absolutely hate it because they're so unfair to innocent children. These children don't ask for these situations that they're born into, whether the parents are substance abuse is a factor. The fact out of children born out of wedlock. This is not the fault of the child, but
it's
like
gonna
I
get
always
worse
say,
too. It's gonna get worse too because they're passing the laws where people of making these laws, especially against women, about their bodies. So
right,
they're forcing ladies to have kids and they're not ready to have kids. Not that I condone abortion or anything,
right,
but it's a choice. But
right.
what happens if the choice is made for you? So you bring somebody into this world, but no one wants to take care of it. They don't. They want to cut the programs and all this other stuff. So, I mean, what's kind of life is an individual that can't even be supported physically? But you make these choices for these women that have been raped or incest, all kinds of different scenarios. But they don't want to help once the baby comes here. Then there's no program available for these kids. So it's just a sad situation.
It's a
All
very sad situation because, like I said, I spoke to Lost Child earlier this weekend. It's like they don't want to kill the child in the womb, but they want to kill the child in their adolescence, and it's so unfair because So the suicide rate, what I'm learning is that the suicide rate amongst foster children and adopted children is like sky high. They don't ask for these situations, and so they have to live through life
Yep.
being psychologically abused, physically abused, emotionally abused, and all of those things just to age out of a system and have to figure life out on their own. My point is when we have the government in these states and these local politicians make the decision of what women should do with their bodies, it only leads to a greater crisis.
Yep.
So not only is the child going to be traumatized, or not only is the woman going to be traumatized, but the child is going to be traumatized. And
Hmm.
so when you want to cut back on crime, a lot of that's the only resort that they have when you factor in drugs,
Hmm.
prostitution, and all of those things, because what other choice do I have? I need money. How do I
Survival.
defeat my emotions? I'm just going to get high. How
Right.
do I, so how does it stop? How does it, there's nothing we can do to
Yeah.
put an end to this. And that's where it becomes more hurtful because, again, these are not situations that we ask for. And when a woman is the victim of a sexual assault, and now from that sexual assault, she's now impregnated and has to carry a child that she does not want, and has to birth a child that she does not want. And it's not like she laid down voluntarily. It's not like it
Hmm.
was a consensual act. This woman was victimized, but now she has to deal with the fact that I have to have this baby. And then not only is it going to haunt the child, where's my mother, but likely it's going to haunt the mother, where's my child.
Yeah. Yep.
And
So
so it's an ongoing cycle of abuse that the government doesn't seem to really care about.
no, it doesn't affect them. It's yeah. It's until a lot of things with higher up until it directly affects them. They don't care. You know,
They really don't care. And Kevin, I thank you so much for sharing your story and for speaking with me today. Before I let you go, I want to go back because this thing here is just going to bother me. If your adoptive dad or a foster father did not tie the extension cord around your neck, was the only other choice was to cage you? Because I can't understand why. Was that to make sure you didn't
that
move around the house, go outside?
make sure I didn't move, go outside. Even though my foster brother at the time, he was able to go in there because my foster father slept real hard, and so he would unloosen his grip on the around the neck, because it's like a like a little loose, you can
Mhm.
like a slip knot. And so he used to do that. You go outside and play for 15, 20 minutes because that's how hard he slept. And the times I did get caught, if or it looked like I was somewhere else other than between his legs, he would hit me with the give me some lashes or whatever. So it was very seldom that that we did that. But his whole thing was control. I didn't have a bedroom. I slept on a cot in the dining room area. So I never had a bedroom until I was about 12 years old. Um, so I slept on the cot. In order for me to watch TV, I had to crawl on my hands and knees to where my foster brother and where she stayed at, and my foster brother, he it was twin beds, and so he slept in one bed and she slept in the other because she didn't sleep with her husband, and so they had a dog there, so my foster brother had to pull the dog so I can crawl by, and I had to lay on the floor to watch TV, and then I had to sneak back. So it was all kinds of stuff that I had to do to survive. I was really, really, really skinny too, because I ate dinner, I couldn't get seconds. Yeah, it's whole 9 yards. It was very abusive.
And the state had no knowledge that
No
this was
knowledge. Well, the
going.
state the state would come by, but I'm a kid, so I don't know nothing about you know,
Right.
the state or whatever. So they used to, dress me up real good and sit me on the sofa, and then they used to come in and play the game with them. And back then, DIFUS, that's what it was called. I don't know if it's called that now, social services. They just come in and out, are you all right? Yes. You okay? Because I was scared if I said anything,
Right.
I was going to get whooped. So, boom, and, boom. That was it until the last when my foster father when he passed away, and she tried to continue it, and I hid from her. And because she always used to make the threat that I'm going to call Dyfus on you. And so that day she actually called Dyfus and told him to take me out of here. Because because now I was older now, and I was telling her I was getting tired, and she's
Yeah,
older, so I was getting tired of getting hit, and I said, "You're not going to hit me no more." And and so I'm gonna tell Dyfus on you. I didn't even know the number.
right.
I used to make threats, so she couldn't handle me no more because I was getting too big, and so they just came and got me.
Another story.
Yeah,
Another
a lot
story.
of them out there. It's worse than me.
It's right, exactly. And that's what I'm saying. As much as you shared today, that's not even the worst of it.
And that's the
Um,
'60s. That was the '60s and '70s, and that stuff still goes on even until now. And we're in what 2024.
right.
Yeah,
Kevin, I'm thankful for your time. I'm
appreciate
thankful
it.
for your transparency. And on Instagram and Facebook, we are Living My Shadows. And what else? What are your other handles?
Yes, live in my shadows, and also I have a handle. Let's talk about adoption, and then you also can find me on livingmyshadows.org. It's a website. You can find out a little bit more about me.
He is an author. He has written a book, Living My Shadows, where he openly talks about his story of being a foster child and adoption. So that is going to be a book that I purchased. And so I'm happy to share and some key points once I read it. And Kevin, probably I'll ask you to come back so that we can touch on some points of the book, if that's okay.
Yes, and you can get it on Audible. Audible, I recommend Audible because you get the feeling of it. The guy
Gotcha.
does a really good job on both books. Living My Shadows, Dreams Do Come True is book number one, and book number two is Shadows of Emotions, Life After the Dream. Basically, that book is about after you found your biological family. It's not all peaches and creams. It's a whole new dynamic.
Yep. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I'm thankful
Thank
that the
you.
military was able to groom you into a wholesome man. And guys, he's on Instagram, he's on Facebook at Living My Shadows, and let's talk about adoption, Kevin. So I thank you so much for your time.
Appreciate it, Jeff.